This is the Louie T Network.
Draft Zone. Draft Zone.
Welcome, you are in the lab room.
Draft
I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for
Zone.
joining me here on this program, 2014 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. Who's next format? You gotta be first, people. I don't know what some of you guys are looking at, but you gotta be first. Be the first to leave a comment in the comment section stating next in the team you want to see next. You gotta be first. I don't know what else to say. I mean, some of you are getting upset, and what you must realize is that every single team will be done when it's all said and done. But I know there's a sense of urgency. You want to see your team next up on the program. You got to be first. I don't know what else to say to you. You got to be first. You got to find a way to get it done. You got to win. You have to win. And so be the first to leave a comment in the comment section of this and future videos stating next in the team that you want to see next. And so it's really simple for me. You got to be first. You got to have the words next in the team you want to see next up on the series. And that is that. You move on to how we get the scores for these teams. Each and every single team in the National Football League will be done here on this program. You look at each and every single player and grade them out using our baseball grading scale. Single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the draft wrap-up series, as we cannot tell how these players will pan out. Don't want to discount anybody. Do not want to count anybody out. So there are no strikeouts. We add up those scores, get an aggregate for each and every single team, and that is how we determine their grade. And then we move on to the next team up on the series, picked by you. Yes, you, the viewers. So without any further ado, I've got my handy dandy pointer. I've got my big board behind me. And today we're talking about the 2014 NFL Draft of the Philadelphia Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. So I'm going to fly to the big board and break down this draft of the Philadelphia Eagles. And so we start in the first round, 26th overall selection, linebacker out of Louisville, Marcus Smith. To me, one of the bigger surprises of the first round, along with Jawan James out of Tennessee going to the Dolphins at 19. I think this was another one of those picks that had everybody smiling. Okay, let's see what the Eagles going to take. Marcus Smith. But I'll tell you what, he impressed me at the combine. And look, you can beat the Eagles up if you like. If you don't know Marcus Smith and you're an Eagles fan and you're not excited, let me make you get excited about this pick, okay? Because you drafted a great football player. Okay, you drafted a good football player. I won't say great because, again, he has to come into the league and perform. But this was a position of need for you here at outside linebacker, a guy that can get pressure on the quarterback, okay? Trent Cole is nice and he's cute, but he's really a 4-3 defensive end playing imposter as a 3-4 outside linebacker. He is a fish out of water, and he can get it done. You saw that last year, but again, that's not a natural fit for him. He's out there doing the best he can and making the best of a situation that he was thrusted into. But to be frank, you want more pressure on the quarterback. You didn't get enough of it last year, and here's a guy that's going to help you provide that type of pressure. Now, he was the AAC Player of the Year in that conference, 14.5 sacks. And the thing that impressed me at the combine with this guy, if you go back and watch my combine breakdown, is that he looked the best and one of the most fluid guys in those conversion drills that I talked about from defensive end to linebacker, because I have him listed as a linebacker because that's what he's going to play for the Eagles. But this guy's a defensive end. He's a defensive end by trade. Came to school at Louisville as a quarterback. They moved him to linebacker, and then he made the transition to defensive end where he remained for the duration of his college career. And so he's a guy that is really naturally wanting to put his hand in the dirt. But I thought he looked very fluid standing up. And there weren't many of those guys at the combine that did a really good job of standing up and taking their hand out of the dirt. And he was one of them. There were about 4 or 5 guys that I thought maybe could make the transition. He was definitely one of them. And so I think you got the best of that group, of the guys that took their hands out of the dirt at the combine and showed the ability to make the transition, flip the hips, drop into coverage, move laterally, and not lose any athleticism. Marcus Smith, to me, performed the best out of those guys. So there's no doubt in my mind that he can play linebacker at the next level as a 3-4 outside linebacker. I think it's a natural fit for him. And the guy can get to the quarterback, okay? The guy can get to the quarterback. 14.5 sacks speaks for itself. And he's got an array of moves. I'd like to see him refine some of those moves. He will spin on you occasionally. He will go outside, hard back, inside on you occasionally. But his bread and butter is speed. And he can take speed and translate it to power. But again, these are all things he needs to fine tune. But again, he does have those moves available. They're in the repertoire. He just needs to fine tune them. So I like the fact that he already comes pre-packaged with an array of moves. He's not one of these guys that just straight speed up the field, doesn't know what he's going after, doesn't know how to do anything else, doesn't have a counter move. There are other moves in the repertoire that he can reach in and pull out and get to the quarterback. He's not a guy that just blindly goes up the field and doesn't honor his responsibilities. I think he's also a guy that can set the edge in the run game. At about 6'3", 250, 55 pounds or so, I think he does an adequate job setting the edge in the run game. He could get a little stronger, and he could be a little bit more stout at the point of attack. But again, there are a couple of games. One in particular that comes to mind is that bowl game against Miami, where they try to run outside, and he absolutely stonewalls them, sets the edge, turns them back on a key 4th down early in that ball game. And he did that a number of times in that game. Every time they needed a big play defensively, if you watch that bowl game against Miami, he came up with the play, sack, strip, for, and he's one of those guys. And I love guys that go after the quarterback, but they're looking for the football in the process. Look, I say this all the time. Anybody can get a sack. Anybody can get a sack. My grandmother can get a sack, but only the special ones go after the football in the process. And that, to me, is the difference between a game changer and a game wrecker. Game wreckers are looking for the football as well. Game changers on the defensive side of the football, hey, they're the guys that get you off the field on 3rd downs. Those are the guys that'll deflect a pass, and now you got to punt on 3rd and 7. Hey, that's nice. That's the guy that gets pressure, doesn't hit home, but forces you to make an errant throw. Maybe somebody else picks it off. Maybe you don't get to set your feet. Ball's incomplete. You got to punt. Game changers get to you, and they're getting the football out of your hands as well. And Marcus Smith can do that. I love this guy. I think the Eagles, for everything that we like to make Chip Kelly out to be, oh, he's an offensive guy. He wants this offense to be this and that. I know, I'm guilty. I was saying you got to go replace Deshaun Jackson right away. Right away. 1st round, Brandon Cooks, go get him. He's going to be there. Well, Cooks wasn't there. And so the next best thing to do was get a position of need, and that guy was right there in the 1st round, Marcus Smith. Some people may have thought the Eagles reached for him. I don't. I think you had to go and get your guy when you felt the need to go get your guy, because if you would have waited into the 2nd round at your pick, then you wouldn't have got this guy. You would have had to trade up in the 2nd round to get him, and I don't know if that's necessary. Get your guy when you feel the need to get your guy, and that's what you did. 1st round, 26th overall selection, linebacker out of Louisville. Marcus Smith, for me, is a home run. You can put it on the board. Yeah. It's a home run. I think the Eagles went out and address the need here. This guy can get pressure on the quarterback. There's no doubt in my mind that he's going to make that transition and make it fluidly, make it seamlessly. And he's going to help them do something that I thought they struggled with a season ago. And that's getting pressure, consistent pressure on the quarterback. You move on to the second round. 42nd overall selection, wide receiver out of Vanderbilt, Jordan Matthews. One of the most polished receivers in this draft. Jordan Matthews is a guy that was on the radar a long time ago, set SEC records in receptions and yards, and set school records at Vandy for receptions and yards, you name it. He's rewriting all types of records. This guy is as consistent a receiver in this draft as you'll find. At 6'3", about 220 pounds, he's a really solidly built receiver, a cousin of Jerry Rice. And so you can kind of see that in his game a bit because of the route running, the sticky hands, a lot of one-handed grabs at Vandy, a lot of highlight reel type catches. He's just a solid receiver. Now, he timed out better at the combine, ran a 4.46 or something like that, crazy. And at that height, you don't expect him running that fast. And honestly, when you watch the tape, he's not that fast. I don't think he plays at that speed. However, just knowing that he's that fast gives you a little bit of extra, a little bit of confidence knowing that, hey, if we need to, we can dial up the 9 route and he can probably get behind some DBs in this league. So he adds another dimension, but he doesn't run away from guys. That's why I say I don't see the time speed because he doesn't run away from defenders. If he catches a slant or if he's able to run a dig route and make a guy miss, you don't see him taking it to the crib. He doesn't take it to the house. Guys usually track him from behind, but the thing I love about him, he has a big frame. Talked about that, 6'3", and he knows how to use it. He can position himself and catch the football. Sometimes he uses his body, but he can stretch away from his frame. I talked about the sticky hands, and so that's not an issue for me. Sometimes he'll have lapses in concentration and drop the football, but again, who doesn't? I mean, we've seen the best of the best in this league drop the football at times, and so he's no different. But this guy is the complete package at the receiver position. I like all of the things that he brings to the table. He works hard, was a captain at Vandy. I like his temperament. I think that, you know, Chip Kelly likes big receivers. He's a sucker for guys that are a little bit bigger. And so Jordan Matthews fits into that equation. And it doesn't hurt that the guy can run as well. I think he's going to be a perfect complement to what you already have on this team. If and only if Jeremy Maclin comes back and is at full strength and looks like the guy that we thought was on the cusp of becoming a really good receiver in this league. If he comes back from that ACL injury and he's healthy, this is going to be one of the most dynamic receiving corps in the league, with Riley Cooper emerging the way he did a season ago, with Maclin coming back and being explosive, because I don't think Jordan Matthews is the take the top off the defense type of guy. I think Maclin is going to have to be that type of guy for you, because I don't know if you have that receiver on the roster. So Matthews is going to be a guy that can work the middle of the field as well as the outside. And the thing about him that makes him such a dangerous target is that he played in the slot and outside at Vandy. So he's got experience not only outside as an X or a Y, but he also can play the Z in the slot. So he gives you flexibility, gives you versatility. This is a really good pickup for the Philadelphia Eagles. In the second round, 42nd selection overall, wide receiver out of Vanderbilt. You can put it on the board. Yes, you cannot deny the production, setting school records in the SEC. Played against elite talent and got it done. This guy has a big frame, 6'3", 2 and some change in terms of weight. The guy can catch the football away from his body, can use his body to shield off defenders, and also, if you're not careful, can run behind you with deceptively quick feet. And I tell you what, if Nicholas Foles plays the way he played last year, this guy is going to come in right away and have a huge impact on his team. It's a home run in the second round. This is great value, getting a guy like Jordan Matthews with the production, coming into an environment where the Eagles are going to need someone to step up. They kind of revamped the wide receiver position. No more Avant, no more Deshaun Jackson. He's going to have plenty of opportunities to make plays in this offense in 2014. Let's see what Jordan Matthews is able to do. Third round, 86 overall selection, wide receiver out of Oregon, Josh Huff. And Chip Kelly went back to his roots and snatched up a player that he's comfortable with, knows what he's getting. And to me, look no further than your replacement for Jason Avant right here. This is what Josh Huff is bringing to the table. He's not a overly explosive receiver, not going to take the top off the defense. He's tough. At 5'11", 200 and about 5 pounds, he's solidly built. Has the temperament to go and block. I got upset with him a couple of times watching him block because I said to myself, he's not a smart blocker. Sometimes he'll block a guy into the play. Other times he'll overrun a block and allow that defender to get into the play and make a tackle. And then sometimes I see him and he's blowing guys up, giving them a shoulder and stop blocking and moving guys and redirecting them out of the play. So I had to cut him some slack because initially I was not happy with him. I was not satisfied with him as a blocker. However, as I continued to watch the tape, he grew on me as a blocker. And the one thing I do like is that he has the temperament. He wants to block. He's a willing blocker. So as long as you have that, I can work with you. I don't have a problem with that. So he will block. He's tough as nails. He'll go over the middle. He'll sit down in his zone coverage. He'll make all the tough catches. Again, sometimes I look at it and I say, hey, if you want to replace Jason Avant, I need you to make just about every catch on third down because Jason Avant, say what you want about him, he wasn't looking to take the top off anybody's defense. He wasn't running by anybody. But if you needed a catch on 3rd and 7, Jason Avant would get you 8. If you needed a catch on 3rd and 6, Jason Avant would get you 7. And you knew you could throw it low, you could throw it high, you could throw it slightly outside his frame. Jason Avant would find a way to get it done, whether it be one-handed and still getting 2 feet in bounds near the sidelines, or if he had to go scoop a ball off the ground, Jason Avant caught the football. If nothing else, Jason Avant caught the football. Josh Huff is going to have to catch the football. Sometimes in tight coverage, and this is only in traffic, the ball will go right through his hands. And so he has to catch the football because that's what the Eagles are looking for him to come in here and do. And be a guy that can catch the football on third downs. Be a guy that can sit down in zone coverage, make all the tough catches, do all the dirty work. Josh Huff is going to be that guy, much like he was at Oregon, a guy that did the dirty work, that caught the football on third downs, the guy that moved the sticks, the guy that if you fell asleep could run by you. He's not going to do that in the National Football League. He's not explosive enough. He's not going to run by defenders. However, if you fall asleep, if he catches you on your heels, he can go by you. And so this is another solid pickup by the Eagles. In the 3rd round, 86th overall selection, wide receiver out of Oregon. Josh Huff for me is a triple. I like this move, and it's going to help replenish a position that was depleted in the offseason. No more Avant. No more Deshaun Jackson. Macklin is a question mark. So you need guys to come in, step in, and really help this offense not lose a beat. And so Josh Huff, Jordan Matthews coming in. Eagles are going to rely on them in their rookie seasons to come in and help them not miss a beat offensively. This is a team that was one of the most explosive teams offensively a year ago, and they're looking to keep that going and not lose stride. And Josh Huff and Jordan Matthews are going to have to help them in their rookie season. You look at the 4th round, 101st overall selection, cornerback out of Florida, Jaylen Watkins. It's crazy because you're used to Florida corners being drafted. You're used to Florida corners timing out well at the combine and doing all of the drills well for the most part. Well, there were about 3 guys in the secondary for Florida, about 3 corners, guys that could play safety, play corner, that came to the combine, you know, Purifoy and all those guys, Watkins, and none of them timed out well except for Watkins. All of them ran sluggish 40 times, looked a lot more average with their athleticism. Jaylen Watkins was the only one that stood up to the test that the NFL evaluators put him through. And at the combine, he showed out, ran a 4.41, 4.42, 40, something like that, crazy time. And showed the athleticism. He tracks the football. The thing that I like watching him on tape is that he tracks the football. Whether he's in zone coverage or he's in man coverage, he's looking to try to make a play on the football. He's a guy that will come in, lay a shoulder, help in the run game, and support there. But he's got to be a little bit more sound in his tackling. He's a guy that wants to come in and lower the boom. He wants to give you the shoulder. And again, in college football, you can get away with that. At the next level, sometimes you will be able to get away with that. But the guys up here in this league, in the National Football League, are so much more physical. Now you're dealing with Calvin Johnsons. Now you're dealing with Anquan Boldens of the world. Now you're dealing with Larry Fitzgeralds. Now you're dealing with Andre Johnsons. Now you're dealing with Dwayne Bowes and Demaryius Thomases. These guys will bounce off of shoulders and keep on running. And so he's got to come up and make form tackles. But you know what? I don't really worry about that. I think he can be taught. And again, the mentality is there. That's all I'm looking for. Give me the guy that wants to tackle. I'll teach him the rest. If I'm a team and I'm drafting a guy, give me the corner that wants to tackle. I'll teach him how to do it if he doesn't know how to do it the right way. And so he wants to tackle. So the thing that I want to see out of him a little bit more now is when he comes up in press coverage, I want you to get your hands on the receiver and redirect him. Sometimes he comes up in press, doesn't touch the receiver, okay? Gives them a free release. To me, what good is press coverage if you're not getting your hands on the receiver? Get him dirty. Get him filthy, okay? Let him feel you. Give him a little something at the line of scrimmage and redirect their route. And to me, it's pointless to come up, get in a guy's face this close and not touch him. And so I need him to learn how to redirect receivers at the line of scrimmage. I also need him to flip his hips and use that speed. Sometimes I'm watching the tape and I don't see the speed, okay? If you're running that fast, use that. Come up, challenge guys, and even in zone coverage. Don't let guys eat up your cushion and you don't turn and flip your hips and get there and make a play on the football. Don't allow guys to make sharp cuts and you don't stick your foot in the ground and go. React. Be explosive. We've seen it. The jumps at the combine, the straight line speed in the 40. You have athleticism. You're explosive as an athlete. Go. Okay? And so the brother of Sammy Watkins, Jaylen Watkins, is a guy that I feel like has potential. I think he's going to help strengthen this Eagles secondary, another position of weakness for this football team. And I think he's going to come in, and he's not a starter right away. You've got Bradley Fletcher. You've got Kerry Williams. You've still got Brandon Boykins in the slot. So there's no starter's role for him right now. But he'll learn. He'll continue to watch and see how the game is played, adjust to the speed of the game. And it wouldn't surprise me in a year or two if this guy's your starting corner and a guy like Bradley Fletcher is on his way out or a guy like Kerry Williams is on his way out. He's a guy that I think for right now, he gives you depth. He'll come down and play special teams, and he'll help you in that secondary. When teams spread you out, put 4 and 5 receivers on the field, he'll get his chance to show you what he's made of there. But as a starter, I don't think he's ready to do that anyhow in year one. In the 4th round, 101st overall selection cornerback out of Florida, Jaylen Watkins for me is a double. He's got everything you're looking for. He's a longer 5'11 corner, not that average 5'11 guy. He's got a little bit of length to him, not afraid to come up and help and support in the run game. It has speed. I just talked about that 4.41, 4.42 40 speed. So he's got speed. He's got all the things you're looking for. He looks for the football, can make plays on the football. He's just got to learn how to be better at his craft. He's got to learn how to use all the tools that he possesses, use them and translate them on the field on Sundays. Eagles should be able to help him do that. You move on to the 5th round. 2 selections in the 5th round for the Eagles. First of those 2 selections, 141st overall defensive end out of Oregon, Taylor Hart. So Chip Kelly goes back to the well once again, back to his old alma mater at Oregon to snatch a guy and bring him to the pro ranks. Taylor Hart for me, and there are 2 guys that you drafted, and I'll talk about the other one a little bit later. 2 guys that you drafted along this defensive line that you're going to do nothing but ask them to stop the run. They're 1st and 2nd down players only, can't be on the field on 3rd and long because they don't offer you any value there. Taylor Hart not getting after anybody's quarterback. He's there, and it's funny because the Eagles, the way you look at it, and I think this is the thinking of the guys in your scouting department and the coaching staff and your GM, these are the guys making the decisions. I think the way they're looking at it is, hey, we've already got quick-twitched athletes down there, guys like Benny Logan and Fletcher Cox and guys like that we feel like can get to the quarterback, okay, that can be disruptive in the run game and get in the backfield, knife in there and make things happen, okay? We've got guys that we trust that can get to the quarterback from the defensive line position. We want guys that are more stout at the point of attack. And so Taylor Hart, for me, 6'6" or so, is a big physical guy, a 5 technique that's just going to stand up at the point of attack. And you know, these big guys that are tall, 6'6", like Taylor Hart, what they tend to do is just stand up. When the ball is snapped, their first move, and it's just natural for them, is to stand up, stand straight up, which allows offensive linemen to get leverage, get their hands up under the pads and drive these guys off the ball, except this guy's hard to move. So at 6'6", 300 pounds, he's a tough cookie to move. And so he's going to be a guy that's going to set the edge in the run game and has functional mobility. He doesn't move all that well to me. For his size, I guess he moves well, but he's a big lumbering guy. I've seen guys his size move much better than he does. And so that's why I tell you, he's not getting to the quarterback. So don't look for it. He's a guy that's a rotational depth guy. It's not going to start for you. You've got athletes on that defensive line, okay? You've got athletes up and down that defensive line. He's not starting. He's a rotational depth guy. When you're playing a team like the 49ers that wants to smash mouth you to death and run the football, you're going to put him in the game and tell him on 1st and 2nd down, stop the run, big boy, stop the run, and then we'll get you out of there and get some guys that are quicker athletes to get to the quarterback on 3rd down. And so he's a solid addition to this defensive rotation along this defensive line, just not going to get any pressure on the quarterback whatsoever. However, it doesn't mean he does not serve a purpose. He's going to help you stop the run. And so, in the 5th round, 141st overall selection, defensive end out of Oregon, Taylor Hart is a double. Not getting to the quarterback, but he's going to help you in the run game, going to be solid and stout at the point of attack. Think he's going to serve a purpose, not getting to the quarterback once again, but will be sound in helping you set the edge in the run game as a 5 technique and help you stop the run. You look at your 2nd, 5th round selection, 162nd overall, safety out of Stanford, Ed Reynolds is the selection. So Chip Kelly relying on his Pac-12 prowess and background and selecting a guy in Ed Reynolds that has NFL bloodlines. Dad played in the league, and he's a guy that can make plays on the football. In his junior season, had 6 interceptions and set a Stanford school record for most interceptions by one player in a season. And so he can make plays, and 3 of those 6 interceptions went back to the crib. They went to the house. So he has a knack for making big plays, and then not only will he catch the football, he knows what to do with it when he does catch it. So he's a guy that I think Chip Kelly is enamored with in the regard of, hey, this guy can make plays, and he knows how to turn from a defender to an offensive player once he gets the football in his hands. This is the thing I don't like about Ed Reynolds. Other than having a nose for the football at times, he didn't make any plays. He's not a playmaker per se, okay? So, and what I mean by that is he's not going to be a guy that's overly aggressive in the run game, not really going to help you. And so you know what I'm going to do at this time? Take the cap off the marker and put an F behind that S. He's a free safety. And you know how I like my safeties to be versatile, have a little bit of strong safety tendencies as well as free safety capabilities? He's not one of those guys. I don't see him coming down and helping you in the run game at all. He's not a nosy defender that's going to come down and drop the hammer on anybody. He needs to be 15, 20, 25 yards off the ball and playing back. And even though he ran a sub 4.6 40 at the combine, I don't see that speed translating to the field when I watch the footage. When I watch the game tape, I don't see him being a guy that's explosive, that takes great angles and is able to make plays on the football. I just see a guy that's in the right place at the right time. But again, at college, at that level, you can get away with that. In the NFL, you got to take proper angles. You got to be explosive. You got to be able to make breaks on the football. I just don't see that from him. I don't see Ed Reynolds being a guy that's going to be explosive. I see him as just another guy, okay? He's depth at the safety position, and that's a position of need for you. And to me, he's depth. He's not a guy that's a game changer, not a guy that you're going to be able to rely on as a starter. I think he's a guy that if your starter gets hurt, he can play for 2 or 3 weeks, but not any more than that. Then he'd be overstaying his welcome. And then the next thing you know, you'll be saying, I want that guy off my team. Anytime you see more of a guy than you're supposed to, then you want to get rid of him. And maybe it's not even justified, but when you see a guy more than you're supposed to, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And to me, Ed Reynolds is a guy that you'll love on special teams and in a pinch can play safety, and you'll like him in spurts. But if you ask this guy to have to play for you for a 6-week stretch, you're saying, hey, this guy stinks. I want him off of my roster. I don't want him back on the bench. I want him off my team. And it can happen like that. And so, to me, he's a backup safety. Doesn't offer you anything in the way of run support. He, to me, is just a guy that needs to be off the ball, can make plays on the football. If he takes proper angles, if he diagnoses the play correctly, then I think he can make a play on the football. But again, I don't see the speed translating to the field, and I don't think he takes proper angles enough, and I don't think he's a guy that is instinctive enough to make plays at this level in the National Football League. And so, in the 5th round, 162nd pick overall, free safety out of Stanford, Ed Reynolds for me is a single. I just don't really think what he brings to the table is going to make a huge difference on this roster. It wouldn't even surprise me if this guy did not make this team altogether. But again, this is a position of need for you. And so I say all of that and say that he's probably still going to make the roster because you don't have a lot of depth at safety. So you move on to your final pick in this draft, 7th round, 224th overall selection, defensive tackle out of Wisconsin, Beau Allen. Remember I talked about you having two players that aren't getting any pressure on the quarterback? Well, here's the second of those two players. Beau Allen, for me, is a big, lumbering nose tackle that just eats up space. He's a throwback. Remember those guys like Ted Washington, Gilbert Brown from back in the days with the Packers when they won the Super Bowl with Brett Favre, and even a guy like Ted Washington and Pat Williams. Remember Pat Williams from the Williams brothers with Kevin Williams? Those big 330, 340, 350-pound guys that were almost immovable objects in the middle of a defense. I mean, you put these guys in the middle of your defense, and as an offensive coordinator, you're like, all right, we're going to run the ball, but not at those guys because they're taking up space. They're road graders. They eat up two blockers and allow the linebackers to stay clean and roam the field. When you see Beau Allen, that's what you probably will think about. Guys like that. You'll reminisce, like Mary J. Blige, about guys in yesteryear that used to eat up space and stop guys from running up the A and the B gap at the same time. But that's not what this guy is. Even though he's that size at 6'2", about 330, he's about that size. He's not about that life, okay? When I looked at him, I said, okay, I know that one-on-one, you're standing guys up. And double teams, they're going to have to double team you. And I want to see if you can stand up to that double team. Well, first of all, one-on-one, some guys were moving him out of the way. And I'm like, wait a minute, come on now. 6'2", 330. These guys shouldn't be, and again, it's not like he's one of these 6'5" guys where, you know, he stands straight up, gives up the leverage, allows the tackle, guard, center, whomever to get their hands up underneath his pads and drive him backwards. He's a guy that's kind of built low to the ground at 6'2". He should be able to keep a low pad level and drive a offensive lineman either back or at least hold his ground, worst case scenario. I don't even see that from him most often times. And so he's a guy that when he's double teamed, he is blown out of the hole. Absolutely blown to smithereens. They wash him clean. Wash him clean out of the play. And so, to me, Beau Allen is useless. Because if you're that big and you can't stand up at the point of attack and stop teams from even thinking about running the football up the middle of the field, that should be an afterthought. They should say to themselves, okay, that guy's in the middle. Forget about it. Let's just try to go around him. That's not the case with Beau Allen. I watched him at Wisconsin, and I'm like, what does this guy do? What purpose does he serve? And I know I'm being a little harsh, but he's a 7th-round pick. I don't think that he fits in today's National Football League, especially being that he's not athletic at all. When I say at all, I mean this guy doesn't move well at all. And so he's not tracking anybody down. He's not moving down the line, trying to make a tackle. He's just there on the field, and it's not productive. He's not eating up blockers. He's not taking up space. He's just in the way, and not in a good way. And so in the 7th round, 224th overall selection, defensive tackle out of Wisconsin, Beau Allen for me. He's a single. Honestly, don't expect him to make this roster. I don't think he's a guy that comes with enough value to make this roster. He's what I like to call a guy with no nutritional value whatsoever. There's no reason to have him on the roster. There's nothing good coming from him. That's a whole bunch of saturated fat right there. That's a whole bunch of extra calories you don't need. Just trim off the fat there. I think that guy easily could not make this roster, or he could make this roster if he comes in, impresses the coaching staff. Maybe he needs to drop a few pounds. Maybe he needs to, but that's not his game. I don't know what that would do for him. He's a single for me. So that's the Eagles draft in a nutshell. So you take a look at their picks. Marcus Smith, home run in the 1st round. I think this guy is the quintessential outside linebacker in terms of a guy that can make that conversion and that switch from defensive end, hand in the dirt, to a guy that can stand up. And he played in a 3-point stance. They actually stood him up at Louisville. And so it's not like he doesn't have experience standing up without his hand in the dirt. He stood up quite a bit. They moved him around left side, right side. They twist, stunts, you name it. This guy did it all at Louisville. So he's already got some of the tools that you're looking for in a guy to come in and get pressure. And so, like I said, he came pre-packaged with moves already assembled, and he comes in with experience with his hand out of the dirt. So I think that's an absolute home run. 2nd round, Jordan Matthews. Again, Deshaun Jackson's void isn't going to be filled by one man, and Jordan Matthews isn't going to fill that by himself. But at 6'3", running a sub-4 540 with the route running ability, soft hands, drugstore cotton soft hands to snag the football. I think this guy's going to have an immediate impact, especially if Nicholas Foles is anywhere near the production he had a season ago. You couple him, and that's a home run, you couple him with the 3rd round selection, Josh Huff out of Oregon, who's going to take the place of one Jason Avant. And I think that's what you're looking for. Those two coming together. You sprinkle in a little bit of a guy that you have coming back off of injury in Jeremy Maclin. And I think that's going to be the way that you offset and circumvent that Deshaun Jackson void that's left from him no longer being on this football team. So that's a triple with wide receiver Josh Huff. Jaylen Watkins for me is a solid football player that could be a really good football player in the future. Needs to fine-tune and hone his skills, get better at his craft, learn how to use all of the tools that he possesses. And I think down the road you'll see this guy potentially starting for you out wide. And then to me, this bottom portion of the draft doesn't move me. And this is where, to me, this draft ends up being so-so, because with these first 4 picks, I think these are guys that can help you right away. Some more so than others, but nonetheless, I think these are guys that are going to contribute right away, and you're going to feel their impact in 2014. These guys towards the bottom, if they make the roster, and I think 2 out of the 3 guys probably will make the roster, your 2 5th-rounders probably will make this roster, but after that, I just don't see these guys really having that big of an impact on this roster. Taylor Hart, big defensive end, 5 technique, going to help you stop the run. Can move a bit, but not much, not going to get any pressure on the quarterback. He's a double. And Reynolds, for me, is a safety that I think has backup potential, may help you on special teams, but I don't think he's a starter in this league. He's a single. And Beau Allen is a guy that I really don't see the purpose of this guy being on this roster, being on the field. He's a single for me in this draft. So you tally it up home run, that's 8, triple 11, double, that's 15, 16, and 17 with the last 2 singles. You divide that by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 selections by this Eagles football team. Let's see if you got any bonuses. No home run bonus, no triple bonus, no double bonus. So no bonuses for the Eagles. So it's 7 divided by 17. That is a 2.3 double, which is a solid draft. It's not really earth-shattering. And again, this is what a double means is you had a so-so draft. And to me, this is a so-so draft. When you look at the first 4 picks, I feel like they really did a good job of getting guys that can have an impact right away. And then this bottom portion of the draft, I'm really not moved by it. I don't feel any type of way about it. I look at it and I say, oh, okay, that's nice. That's cool. So, and that's how this draft ends up being. It's a double. It's cool. It's a nice draft. It's okay. But these guys at the top, I think, could have an immediate impact. And if you're an Eagles fan, that's what you should be focusing in on. The beginning of this draft is, I think, what you can hang your hat on. The totality of this draft, it's so-so. So, if it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the Lab Room. I thank you for joining me on this program. 2014 draft wrap-up series of the Philadelphia Eagles ends in a double. So the question remains, who's next? Be first.
Draft Zone.
Like the content? Want more? Sub up.